Benchers.
Hey, I was taking a bath. I don't take baths often, but I used to take a lot back when I was a younger kid. These days, I always take a shower before I take a bath. Not like I take baths very often at all, but I think I'm just afraid that if I take a bath, maybe like part of my hair will come loose, or I'll take a bath so well I scratch off a few skin cells, and then they'll be like kind of floating around with me. So that's why it kind of creeps me out. But when I was younger, I used to take a lot of baths, and when I was younger, I also used to take anger management classes. You see, when I was a kid, I did a lot of combat sports, and I think to some degree, they kind of helped me deal with emotional problems I had at the time. But I still did have problems controlling my anger, and at the same time, I was a really good student in middle school. I was, not the top of my class, but I was almost in the gifted program. My middle school had something like a gifted program where, the smartest kids could like do cool stuff, and I wasn't invited to that because I had anger problems, and I was going to detention a lot. In fact, since I was really fortunate, my mom would read to me. We'd read together Harry Potter when I was younger, and so I got to do a lot of practice of reading. However, my reading skill was higher than my grade level, and so whenever we would do readings in class, that's when I would have to leave the class and go to this anger management class, which was down the hall, with some people who, like me, had problems, and other people who, just had like maybe a mental disability, and had trouble, interfacing with their emotions. And that brings me to strange encounters, because it was during this time that I was spending a lot of time with my friend Scott Mulligan. We were best buddies at the time and still are today. And we were hanging out at the lunchroom table in middle school. And at the time I was also dating this girl remotely. Her name was Maya, and we never actually met in person. We would only communicate over like video chats and text messages, and we had actually been introduced over video chat. So even though I had never met this girl, she was a really important part of my life, and I would talk with her over the phone during my lunchtime in the cafeteria. And that all sort of comes together in this story, which is that I was an angry kid, but I was a good student. I cared a lot about my grades, and so I was doing my homework at the lunch table while also on the phone with this girl who I cared about. And that was when, Scott Mulligan, my good friend at the time, stole my homework. I was talking to her on the phone, I looked down, and suddenly my homework sheet was gone. And he had taken it from me. And, I didn't take that very well. And maybe it's because I wasn't, giving my friends enough attention at that time. I probably felt like, him, Jason Tropper, a few other friends of mine, they probably thought I was a little aloof, so they took the homework from me. And I slapped him. I slapped Scott. Not with like a lot of force, not trying to hurt him, but to kind of like shake him out of his tomfoolery with me, which is not something I'm proud of, and it's something I actually regret doing, because I'm not a very, even if I do all these like combat sports, I'm really not a very physical guy. I don't like being touched very much. And but I did that, and he immediately dropped the paper, But I could see in his eyes that he was really shocked I would do that, because I think there's like this thing that happens when you're sort of like fooling around, where somebody takes it a step too far, and I think that was probably the case. Like he was threatening. He said he was going to rip my homework. He did a little rip in the side, but he probably wasn't going to do that. And even if he did, it's okay, right? That doesn't mean you should like be assaulting somebody. But, and he never forgave me for that. He's always been mad at me for that, probably to this day. I don't know, you'll have to ask him for his side of the story. But that is the time that I slapped Scott. And it's the only time I think we had a disagreement to that level. Later on, we actually both tried to pursue combat sports. We were going to these different clubs in the area. We found this crazy guy who ran a fight club out of this garage. And he was like, yeah, man, we have a fight club on Thursdays. Crazy Al was his name. He runs some sort of dojo around here. And I remember, we did all these like intro classes, because when you try out a new dojo, you want to learn like Taekwondo or something, the first class is normally free, or the first week is free. And so you can go to a class or two and kind of feel the vibe out and see what that class is like. And so me and Scott did a bunch of those, and I think that helped to sort of repair the bond, if you will, between us. But that's the story. And so I wanted to tell you guys that story, because it's a lot of these stories are kind of silly and embarrassing, but I wanted to also tell you a story of something I'm not very proud of, and a mistake I made, because I think those are all the more relevant in constructing a character and helping us determine who we want to be, thinking about the mistakes we've made. So for the next strange encounter, I'm going to tell you about a hero of mine named Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris is a karate expert who has earned sort of like a cult following. And when I was younger, actually still today, I have this poster of Chuck Norris in my bedroom. And I really looked up to this guy, Chuck Norris. And I actually tried to impersonate him. And one of these times when I tried to impersonate Chuck Norris, I almost died. And so that story is what I'll tell you guys next time. Another story I'm not too proud of. I was an idiot, frankly. But all the more important, I think, for sharing with you these honest stories and trying to be straightforward and transparent with you guys about when I've made mistakes and stuff like that. Well, that's it. That's the video. And thanks for visiting.